Commissioners, if you are ready, then I will start the meeting. Good morning, everybody. The time is 10 o'clock, and I call the November 30th, 2023 Planning Board meeting to order. We are joined by the following board members. We have Vice Chair Bailey. We have Commissioner Dorner.
Morning.
Commissioner Giraldo.
Good morning.
And Commissioner Washington.
Good morning.
And I am Chair Shapiro. Please note that the deadline for all participant pre-registration and for all submission of materials and exhibits was 12 noon on the Tuesday before this planning board meeting. You have the ways that you can speak. Registered speakers can join the meeting with the link provided in the email provided by the planning board office. And of course, anyone can tune in to watch the planning board meeting via live stream. And if you wish to speak or become a person of record, you may use our online web form, which you'll see referenced on the screen before you. In addition to the commissioners, we are joined by David Warner, our senior counsel. Did I get that right, David? Ish? Yeah, I'm having a senior moment. David's a lawyer.
Yeah, exactly. It's good enough. I'm the principal counsel. But senior always sounds a little better than principal, so I don't know. Maybe go with either one.
So David's an older
senior
counsel. We have Jessica Jones, our planning board administrator, Joe Parsons, who is our senior technical hearing writer, and James Hunt, who is the division chief for the developer review division, is with us as well. We are also joined by staff members Kenneth Flanagan, and Ryan Cron, helping us with technology behind the scenes. And with that, we will begin our process. We're going to follow the order of cases, commissioners, with one exception. We're going to be going into executive session at the last item on our agenda. So we'll follow the order of cases, but 3B will be the final thing that we do. So let me begin with item 1. We have a resolution of appreciation that I wanted to mention, and then I'll look for a motion. This is for Sandra Kellstrom, a therapeutic recreation coordinator with the Department of Parks and Recreation. She is retiring from the commission beginning in January with more than 25 years of service. She has earned many, many awards and honors for her leadership and advocacy for ADA compliance. I'm sure you all have run into her in all sorts of ways for all the good work that she has done. She's been recognized at the local level, the national level, National Recreation Park Association, National Association of Counties, all sorts of recognition for her wonderful work. A number of promotions, and she's been an invaluable leader, a real champion for Prince George's County residents and visitors with disabilities. So very, very proud to recognize her service and wish her quite a happy retirement. So commissioners, if there's anything you want to add, and if not, I would look for a motion for the resolution of appreciation.
Move to approve the resolution, Mr. Chairman.
Second, and thank you for her service.
Thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Washington, a second by Vice Chair Bailey. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Washington.
I vote aye.
Vice Chair Bailey.
Vote aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Giraldo.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Dorner.
Vote aye.
I vote aye as well. The ayes have it 5-0. Next, I'd look for a motion to approve the draft minutes of November 9, 2023, please.
Move approval.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion by Commissioner Giraldo, a second by Vice Chair Bailey. Folks are moving quick today. Discussion on the motion. Seeing no discussion, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Giraldo.
I vote aye.
Vice Chair Bailey.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Washington.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Dorner.
Vote aye.
I vote aye as well. The ayes have it 5-0. Next, we're going to take up item 3C on our agenda. This is the FY25 proposed M&C PPC budget for Prince George's County. Commissioners, we're going to do this a little bit differently just because there's been a lot of moving parts related to the budget. So we actually will not be hearing the Department of Parks and Recreation budget. We'll take that up on December 7th, I think it is. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but we'll take that up. We'll take the operating budget for DPR up with the capital budget at the same time. We're also not going to be taking up the what's called the ISF, the fund related to the new building, because there's still some information that we got to work out on that one. So I apologize myself and on behalf of the team that this is going to be a little bit of a disjointed process. So we will be taking up today planning board, CAS, planning department, and something. Am I missing anything else that we're going to be taking up today?
Just some internal service funds, but not the one for the Largo headquarters.
So all the other internal service funds, but not Largo headquarters. Okay, so there's no questions on that in terms of our process.
One question.
Yeah.
So on the Parks and Recreation budget side of it, I just wanted to thank them for calling out directly the new maintenance standards for trails and other positions related to what we heard in the public hearings. So they know, and I'm sure they're anticipating, I want to know more information about that stuff. Because I can't tell in the budget what actually was created, because there's some line items for trails, and then there's also adjoining with that like museums, which are totally different from trails. So I want to know what positions are actually for trails, how we're doing those things, and I would also like to see the maintenance standards before that meeting, just so it's not a blanket approval without knowing what we're actually approving. And specifically, I want to know about items that were questioned or that were brought up in the public hearings. Like, I can see that we're trying to address them, and I'm appreciative for that, but I want to know specifics about like the Walls for Wills kind of the efforts and different things like that were actually brought up. So if we're asked about it, we know how to respond to citizens instead of just saying what's somewhere in the CIP. So with that in mind, I'm fine with waiting until December 7th for it, but that's what I'm going to be looking to hear from staff when we're briefed on them.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. They'll take that heads up. And then when it comes to us, I'm sure they'll be able to provide you more information. Thank you. Commissioner Washington?
Yeah, I was just going to ask, I noticed we skipped over item 3A, the legislative work session piece. Are we going to take that later? I was just curious about that.
Yeah, my mistake, actually. We are going to switch the order a little bit, so we're going to take up 3A after 3C.
Sounds good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yep. So back to item 3C, our corporate budget office will start, I believe, Santha or somebody help me understand what order we're going to be taking these out in.
Okay, well, good morning, commissioners. For the record, I am Asantha.
Before we start, Asantha would say, I just want to make sure what order we're taking these up in, because it's not even clear in my notes. So are we going to hear from you first?
I have some opening remarks, then it'll be the Commissioner's Office, the Planning Department, Central Administrative Services, and then I'll just make a brief remark about capital equipment.
Okay, and you're going to be managing the whole process, so that's great, Asantha. Thanks. Take it away.
Absolutely. For the record, Asantha Chang-Smith, Executive Director. I have a few introductory remarks before we get into each department's request. Since the last budget presentations in October, a couple things have changed. As you were made aware at the last commission meeting, we received updated pension numbers, and they are significantly higher than our initial estimates. These changes are reflected in the personal service costs in each of the budgets being presented today. OPEB has also been updated and reflects a minor increase. We are still in the process of finalizing some of the Central Administrative Service chargebacks. These changes are not reflected in all of the funds in today's presentation, but will definitely be updated before the budget is presented to the Commission in December. Some good news, we also had one change with the proposed budget for Commission-wide IT. We were able to find some one-time funding to cover the fiscal year 24 requests for ongoing projects. This reduction is not reflected in all budgets, but will be updated before the budget is presented to the Commission in December. There also just may be some other minor adjustments between the budget presentations and when the budget is presented to the Commission in December. As the Chair mentioned, we are waiting on some assessment numbers from the state that are going to be published today, and we will hear the Largo headquarters and Department of Parks and Recreation budgets on December 7th. The budgets presented today will need a vote from you to move forward, and we ask for approval of all department proposed budgets at the close of presentation. So now we will begin with the Commissioner's Office, Planning, Central Administrative Services, and then a brief word about capital equipment. I will now turn it over to the Commissioner's Office. Thank you.
I thank you for that introduction. For the record, Robert E. Clark III, Prince George's County Planning Board Office. I am a budget coordinator. The Prince George's County Planning Board Office is proposing a $3.8 million budget, which increases expenditures a little over $96,000 or 2.5% above the current approved budget. As I pointed out before in my last presentation, we increased funding in the management consulting services classification at a total of $50,000. This funding is designed for a consultant who will assist with legislative representation, advocacy, and consulting services for the Prince George's County Planning Board. This item is new since I last presented. We have upgraded a vacant position in our budget to a more senior position to provide administrative support to the chair. So that is a new item. Let's see, the shared occupancy costs that will be discussed, I believe, December 7th. And so the rental amount, money that we have currently in our budget will be rolled over so that we can address the future costs, which would be maintenance, utilities, maybe insurance in our new building. We have included explanations for all the variances. And if you turn the page to page 3, I've outlined personal services variances, other services and charges variances, and as usual, the $1.287 million charge to the county council. So with that said, I apologize. One thing, I do have a cold that I really don't feel that great, but I'll be more than happy to entertain any questions that you have. Thank you.
Sorry to hear, Mr. Clark. Hope you feel better.
I appreciate
any questions for Mr. Clark relating to the Planning Board Office budget? No questions? Okay, thank you. Thank you, sir. Much appreciated. Feel better.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
Ms. Chang Smith, back to you.
Okay, next up we have the Planning Department.
Director King.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Board. For the record, I'm Suzanne King, Acting Planning Director for the Prince George's County Planning Department. I will actually turn the presentation over to our new budget manager, although I'm not even sure that I can use the word new anymore, given that this is her second presentation before you. So I turn it over to Lorraine Coleman Williams. Thank you.
I'm not sure we can hear you, Ms. Coleman Williams. No, still nothing. Nothing yet.
Well, while she's working out the technical difficulties, I just wanted to take this opportunity to give a very big thank you to, I'll collectively refer to everyone as my team, although that team is comprised of several individual teams for the move into our new headquarters. Some of you have had an opportunity to go there. There's still quite a bit of work that we have to do, but I'm just so very proud of everything that the team really did to pull together to make it a smooth transition. And if I could ask whoever's running the PowerPoint slide, if you could scroll down just for a moment. I want to see the top of the document. I'm sorry, the other way to the very top of the page. Wanted to just take a quick second to show you our new logo, our new letterhead that we're going to be using. We took this as an opportunity to do a refresh of the planning department's letterhead to make it a little bit more contemporary and clean. And then we'll also be updating our business cards as well. So let's see. And I may have given just enough time. I think Ms. Coleman Williams now has her technical difficulties addressed. Ms. Coleman Williams, if you could just do a test so we can make sure we can hear you now.
Not yet.
Okay. All right, well, I'll kind of begin then.
Can you hear me now? There we go.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Sorry about that. Last time I had technical difficulties and you couldn't see me, so this time you couldn't hear me, but I'm here. I assure you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the Planning Board. For the record, my name is Lorraine Coleman Williams. I am the Budget Manager for Prince George's County Planning Department. It is my pleasure to present to you the Planning Department's FY 2025 budget proposal. As noted in the memo, the FY 2025 budget request totals $48,866,840, which is $2,419,355, or 5.2% above the FY 24 adopted budget. Included in our proposed budget is $29,916,021 for personnel costs, or 7.2% greater than our adopted budget, which was 7.2% greater than our adopted budget. These increases are due to the following. The benefits have increased by $996,433 due to the projected increases in medical insurance, pension, and relative costs for the newly proposed budget positions. Salaries have increased due to the department's proposal to aggressively recruit talent for hard-to-fill positions. As a result of our aggressive recruitment schedule, we have projected a decrease in our proposed salary lapse. In addition, the department plans to increase the staff complement by 7, of which 5 are for new full-time career positions, and the remaining 2 are new term contract positions. The details of these positions are summarized in the memo. The FY 2025 proposed budget also includes $18,920,819 for non-personal service costs, plus an additional $30,000 transfer to CIP as noted later in the memo. This is a 2.2% greater increase greater than the adopted FY 2024 budget.
Ms. Coleman,
Excuse me,
hold on a
I'm
second.
sorry.
I want to make sure your slides are catching up with where you are.
Oh,
Yes, if we could ask if you could go to, I think it's the next slide after the chart, that would be great. There we are. Thank you very much.
Yeah, please keep going.
the proposed budget for supplies and materials is $523,200, which is a decrease of $732,800, or 58.3% below the adopted 2024 budget. This is due to the reduction of funding in office system furniture, office supplies, certain software, and a minimization of desktop printers in favor of connecting staff to network printers. This category also includes additional funding of $84,000 for the Community Planning Division's placemaking events and workshop supplies. There's $5,000 to cover the increased cost of signage to publicize the development's public hearings, and $9,000 in supplies for the Neighborhood Planning Academy. The proposed budget also includes, for other services and charges category, $17,143,505. This is an increase of $1,256,362, or a 7.9% increase above the FY 2024 adopted budget. I will not discuss the memo verbatim. However, I do want to point out major highlights in the existing programs. Within the Community Planning Division, the budget proposes an increase of $467,500 for the continuance of its successful programs, which considers $150,000 for the Planning Assistant Municipalities and Communities, also known as the PAMC project, as well as $17,500 for the University of Maryland Partnerships for Action Learning and Sustainability Program, better known as PALS. In addition, the proposal requests an increase of $300,000 to support the completion of the Master Plan Evaluation Project. The Planning Department proposes decreases totaling $770,500 within its work program. The Countywide Planning Division's Other Services and Charges budget proposes decreases associated with a delay of the update to Green Infrastructure Plan and the Woodland and Wildlife Habitat Conservation Ordinance due to the Assembly's change that mandate revision to Subtitle 25. In addition, the proposal includes a reduction for the mandatory referral guidelines, as this effort is scheduled to be completed in the current fiscal year. The Information Management Division proposes a decrease of $170,500 for the FY 2024 adopted budget. This proposed decrease is a direct result of the reduction of Microsoft Office 365 licenses, renewals, and other software purchases, some of which will be covered in the commission-wide IT projects. The proposed FY 2025 budget also considers increases of $577,700 in funding to implement certain aspects of the Planning Department's work program. The Countywide Planning Division must send mailings to residents and procure media advertisements for the Master Plan of Transportation public hearings, as required by the zoning ordinance at a cost of $325,000. The Development Review Division is seeking an additional $5,000 due to the new zoning ordinance, which requires all zoning map amendments for a planned development zone have a legal advertisement in local newspapers. And the Information Management Division proposes an increase of $229,000 in software related to cybersecurity and system enhancements. The department is investing in various software that will assist in detecting and eliminating of viruses, as well as enhance our current help desk system, manage our projects, and enhance GIS, as well as provide file server and network support. Given our laser-like focus on recruitment and retention of highly qualified employees, we are looking to increase professional development by $18,700. In addition, the budget proposes an increase of $966,262 in support services. This increase is due to the anticipated operational costs associated with the new Largo headquarters. The proposed FY 2025 capital outlay budget totals $771,200. This is a decrease of $107,800, or 12.7% below the FY 2024 adopted budget. The reduction is due to the decrease in funding for carpet and floor replacement. The proposed 2025 chargeback budget is $482,914, which is a decrease of $3,852, or less than 1% below the 2024 adopted budget. The FY 2025 reduction is due to the projected decrease in costs associated with the chargeback from the Department of Human Resource and Management. The Planning Department proposed 25 work programs include carryover projects and programs from FY 2024. These projects and programs are as follows: the Central Avenue Blue Line Sector Plan, Port Towns Sector Plan, Placemaking Around Town Program, the Planning Assistance for Municipalities and Communities Program, the update to the uniform standards for mandatory referral review, and lastly, the master plan of transportation and transportation review guidelines implementation. Lastly, as you see in the memo, we have special revenue. The special revenue fund includes the Historic Preservation Fund transferred to the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission from Prince George's.
Ms. Como, just hold on a second.
I'm sorry.
I'm going to make sure the slides again are a link to where you're talking.
Okay.
If we could advance down to the last page of the memorandum, that would be helpful. Just one more page. Thank you.
There we go. Lastly, as you see in the memo, we have special revenue. The special revenue fund includes the historic preservation funding that has been transferred to the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission from Prince George's County government. The FY 2025 budget is projected to be $623,099, or $60,000 less than the FY 2024 budget. It is our understanding from the Corporate Budget Office that these amounts may change prior to publication of the FY 2025 proposed budget book. This concludes my presentation, and we're available to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Ms. Coleman. Commissioners, questions about the budget, any specific project items you're curious about, anything at all that you have questions for the team about?
No questions, but I would just say that I do like the new letterhead design. It's simple but very classic. So thanks for pointing that out.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We have a wonderful publications department, and they actually came up with the design options. So thank you very much for those comments. I'll make sure and pass it along to the team.
Great.
Well said. The only thing I want to add is I'm appreciative that there's additional funding for the PAMC program and the University of Maryland PALS program. All these partnership programs, I think, have such a positive impact on the community, and I'm glad we're investing even more in it. So good to hear. Okay, no other questions. Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you, Lorraine. Job well done, despite the technical issues. And Ms. Chang-Smith, back to you.
Yes, okay, I think now we are ready to roll into the Central Administrative Services budget. I would ask whoever's controlling the PowerPoint if you could get to slide 69. Instead of running through the memos, which you have for your reference, we put a higher level PowerPoint together based on comments from the last meeting. So, or I'm sorry, maybe it's up a little sooner. At the beginning of the PowerPoint.
It's actually on page 39. It
39, I'm sorry. I don't know why I said 60, 39. Apologies. Okay, so this is our proposed budget, and this combines all our central administrative services. Next slide, please. So we are requesting your approval of the central administrative service budget at our base budget plus our critical needs, which we are going to go forward and explain. Next slide. You all are familiar with our officers, myself, Gavin Cohen, our Secretary Treasurer, Deborah Borden, General Counsel, Renee Kenny, our IG, and Mazen Jaleh, who is our CIO, which looks like we don't have the label on there, so we'll fix that. Next slide, please. Again, you know, this is our structure, and we serve as the foundation for almost every single transaction that takes place, whether it is paying our employees, paying, you know, contractors, anything that is in, you know, any of our bi-county operations. Next slide. And as you know, we also have been called the backbone of the commission because we manage a lot of these services, as you see here, everything from recruitment, retention, diversity, equity, inclusion, corporate policy, cybersecurity, legal compliance, independent audit, and financial and budgetary integrity and transparency. And on that note, we can flip to the next slide. We just wanted to make a mention that with respect to the legacy of financial integrity and transparency, we've been recognized by the Governor's Finance Officers Association with 37 years consecutive in a row for Excellence in Budget Award. And this is our 50th year in a row, half a century, consecutive year in a row, we're recognized for excellence in government finance. And we are the longest running entity award winner in the nation for any special district. So that is really, really an accomplishment. And it really talks not just about the leadership in just the finance department, but in the commission that we have this high standard. So I just wanted to mention that. Next slide, please. So up first are our CAS budgets that are part of the administration fund. CAS also manages 5 budgets that are internal service funds, which I will address later in the presentation. Next slide. Right off the top, the leading cost drivers for our proposed budget is pension with a 25.5% increase. We are also seeing an increase in health insurance costs. As you might be aware, our renewals for Kaiser, for instance, initially came in at 35%. And in an unprecedented move, we actually joined with our union, McGeo, and negotiated with Kaiser to negotiate down that rate to 9.9%. So these costs just continue to rise. Our budgets also include annualization of the merits and COLAs that our employees receive throughout the current fiscal year, in addition to full annualization of positions with hiring delays. The next slide will go into depth into our major known commitments. All right, we've incorporated escalation clauses in our multi-year contracts. These are mostly IT contracts and some financial services. We also incorporated increases for some other IT services that need to be bid out, certain components of the Park Police testing process that are subject to market rate, along with funding for possible arbitration and HR investigations. Similar to the rest of the departments, we're seeing an increase in the severity of our workers' compensation claims and healthcare costs related to those. In addition, we are experiencing an increase in long-term disability. For capital equipment, our firewalls need replacing along with network switches. And these are funded through contributions in the capital equipment fund. We also make an effort to extend the life of our capital equipment purchases as long as we can. For example, we haven't replaced any of our vehicles in over 7 years, as they are at the end of their useful life, not fuel efficient as some of the more recent electric vehicles. While we're not asking for funding for these items now, we will need to address them in future year budgets, but we just want you to know that we are being very frugal with all capital equipment requests. Next slide, please. So this slide shows an overall summary of our fiscal year 25 proposed budget for the administrative fund only. We broke this slide down into the change in our base budget, which is 10.3%, addition of our new initiatives, which is an increase of 4.2%, which brings our total request to $27.8 million, a 14.4% increase over fiscal year 24 adopted adjusted levels. Next slide, please. Here we show the total on the last slide of the $27.8 million broken down by the departments. You may notice that these totals are different than what is listed in the memos just before the slides, and that is because we were able to incorporate some of the changes mentioned in the opening remarks in the slide deck to give you the most accurate numbers. Next slide, please. So up next are our critical needs requests. They support efforts in 3 areas: promoting social equity, enhancing recruitment, retention, and succession planning, and third, fortifying commission cyber and financial security. Next slide, please. This slide provides the budget impacts for each of these initiatives. The totals are a combination of positions and other types of services. Combined, these total $1 million. So just to make clear, it's not $1 million for these 5 positions. There's other initiatives in it as well, which we're going to go through fairly quickly. Next slide, please. The most critical need right now we have is for promoting social equity in a supplier diversity chief position. We were asked last year that until the disparity study is complete, do not ask for this position. The state requires this in legislation, and we work with the Maryland Department of Transportation to put that disparity study together. It will be ready in fiscal year 25. And this position would stand up the minority, women, and disabled-owned business portion of the program, which is the largest portion of the program. So we're asking for a position for that office. We're also asking for monies for outreach, sponsorship, and marketing, vendor training also at $170,000. Just in comparison's sake, for Montgomery, Prince George's, and for WSSC, they have about 7 to 10 employees in their supplier diversity program and a budget of about 1.2 to 1.3 million per year. So we feel that this request on a first year is extremely reasonable. Next slide, please. Also in promoting social equity is an Americans with Disability Act coordinator position. Now this position is mandated first and foremost by federal law. Right now, I fill that position, but we really want to make sure we have somebody who is a point person that is also a subject matter expertise. This is different than the positions we have for our disability services, in that the person is responsible for the gap analysis for our organization across the commission for disabilities and a transition plan that has to be administered, again, across the commission. So this has actually been a request that's come up for the second year and has been requested by all our departments. So we're putting this as a priority as well. Next slide, please. Third item for promoting our social equity is $15,000 for the funding for our Diversity Council's Pride Collaborative. This coming year, we have World Pride. It'll be in DC and is projected to attract over 5 million attendees. You can see these pictures here. This was from last year. This was the first time we attended Capitol Pride celebration. It was a huge event. There were hundreds of thousands of people, and we had one booth, and we did that for recruiting. It was very successful, and we would like to expand those efforts as this is now going to be an international event. Next slide. As you heard from planning and quite frankly from all our departments, recruitment, retention, and succession planning is a huge challenge, not just for us, but in this region. I think you may have heard that our unemployment rate in Maryland is the lowest it has been in the nation. I think in September, that rate was the lowest it had been since 1976 in any state in the nation. So because of that, and because of the fierce competition for talent, we really need to amp up our game with recruitment and retention. So we're asking for the retention, we're asking for a learning management specialist to help us increase support with our learning management system and increase training content across the commission. As you know, we have all sorts of different positions. We only have one person right now who is the director of training. And so she really needs to have a second person to help us, even if it's just to split that division of duties to both counties. We're also asking for an apprenticeship specialist. And this is something, especially in Prince George's, that is going to be very valuable, and there's a lot of interest. Statistics from the Maryland Department of Education show that less than 50% of graduates from Prince George's high schools go to college. And so we really want to start promoting a youth apprenticeship program, developing that, and expanding apprenticeships and internship programs. We actually just signed an MOU with Workforce Prince George's. So we are partnering with our local workforce development agency to bring some talent into our organization. Next slide, please. With respect to recruitment, we really need to update our recruitment materials and also our internet presence. The idea of We Grow Communities Come Grow With Us is great because it talks about our planners that grow our communities, as well as it just fits naturally in with what we do with parks and recreation. So something like that. We also have really great lifestyle benefits that go beyond work-life balance, and we really need to promote that. We are going to use some of this funding to put together social media ads and videos so that our promotion of our benefits and our jobs and the accessibility of being able to balance your lifestyle is going to be more pronounced. Next slide, please. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Secretary Treasurer Cohen and his team to talk about this next request.
Thank you, Santha. Good morning, Chair Shapiro, Vice Chair Bailey, members of the Planning Board. Nice to see you all again this morning. The finance budget, per se, is in your agenda packet on page 18. The overall summary of that budget is a proposal of just over $7 million with 49 positions, which is a 10.9% change from fiscal year 2024. Our one change, you can see on the slide, and it's described in your packet, is for a new treasury position in corporate treasury. The treasury function invests over $700 million in what's an increasingly complicated and volatile economic environment. In addition, we began an initiative in January of this year to modernize our disbursement functions that will come into full force and effect during fiscal year 2025. And we believe we need this additional resource to assist both with the investment and fully implementing the new initiatives. That concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to address any questions in regard to overall finance budget or this position specifically. And again, thank you for your support of these efforts.
Thank you.
Okay, next slide, please. I believe is the Inspector General's office. I don't know if Renee or Madupe, if you're on to brief this slide.
I am on. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you fine, thanks.
Okay, perfect. Good morning, everyone. For the record, my name is Madupe Ogunduyele, and I'm the Deputy Inspector General within the OIG's office. The OIG has one ask, and that is an increase of $13,750. Per government auditing standards, the OIG personnel is required to develop and maintain our professional competence by completing 80 hours of continuing professional education every 2 years. In addition, our staff have several professional licenses, such as CPAs or Certified Inspector General or IT auditors. They also must obtain relevant professional education to maintain their professional licenses. The OIG's current training budget is $6,200, and unfortunately that is not sufficient. The OIG is requesting an increase of $13,750 for a total training budget of $19,950, which will equate to about $2,850 per employee within the OIG's office. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much.
Next slide, please. Okay, Mazen Chile, do we have you to brief our network monitoring tools?
Sure. Good morning. I'm Mazen Chile, Chief Information Officer, for the record. So the network monitoring tool is another layer of security that we're adding to our environment. This is the first tool that we actually get that will provide cloud-based monitoring as well as on-premise monitoring. So a network monitoring tool will provide end-to-end visibility into the performance and health of our network devices, applications, internet connectivity, including our cloud applications and services. So some of the benefits of the end-to-end network coverage, monitoring and coverage is it allows our users, our IT, not users, our IT staff in the enterprise, the corporate IT function, to have insight in how data is being transmitted, identify potential bottlenecks, or any issues on the network as users are on the networks and using those applications. And most importantly, it detects any unauthorized or malicious activities that may be occurring as we transact throughout the day. And therefore, this really ensures optimal performance and security that works hand in hand with the other security tools that we have currently. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next slide. Okay, so up next are our CAS budgets that are internal services funds. They each have their own specific function and are all funded by interdepartmental charges. These charges are built into the department's operating budgets. Next slide, please. Starting out with the CIO and commission-wide IT, the CIO's fund includes operations of the CIO's office and the commission-wide licenses. The increase here is due to the incremental service agreements for our licenses. The total listed for CWIP projects incorporates the reduction of the 450,000 requests for ongoing projects mentioned in the opening remarks, says the good news. The funding remaining is for the ERP upgrade. Overall, the budget remains flat compared to last year. Next slide, please. As you can see, our risk management, this budget is mostly driven by the liability and workers' compensation claims that occur within the departments. Now, what's interesting this year is while we're actually experiencing a decrease in the number of workers' compensation claims, the severity of those claims increased along with the rising healthcare costs has shown an increase. We're also experiencing an increase in our actuarial estimates for claims that are incurred but not yet reported, and external administrative fees for participation in MCSIP. Next slide, please. The fiscal year 25 amount for our health insurance and other benefits is $85 million, or an increase of 7.6%. One new position is included in this total to address the new Time to Care Act mandated by state law and to support the increase in retirees and benefit plan participants. Next slide, please. Up next is the Executive Office Building in Riverdale. The facility houses most of CAS and supports CAS departments in other locations. The building is 56 years old, which is right around the normal lifespan of a commercial property. So it is already at its end of life. Existing maintenance costs, though, for this building this old are already high in order to keep the HVAC system, elevators, and plumbing operational. So rent has been adjusted to provide the budget with a slight increase. This budget does not include any relocation or replacement funding. However, we are in the process of getting quotes to relocate our archives because they are in dire need of new space. We are planning on including those costs in the fiscal year 26 proposed budget, but not this year. Next slide, please. So again, we are asking for your support to approve the CAS budgets at our base budget and the critical needs, which we have just briefed. Next slide, please. We want to thank you. There is one more piece that comes right after this, which is capital equipment's memo. So just wanted to mention that the final budget is the capital equipment's fund. The total expense is requested at $184,000 and includes the capital equipment contributions mentioned earlier in the presentation for network, switches, and firewall replacement. This concludes my presentation, and my team and colleagues are happy to take your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shanks-Smith. Commissioners, a lot of information I know. Questions, thoughts, reactions, concerns?
I just like to thank the team, and I really like the PowerPoint, Ms. Shanks-Smith. lifting up and pointing out the high areas, and it was a lot easier to follow. I know, because when I was reviewing it last night, I thought, oh my God, this is fabulous. So I just wanted to share that. And thank you all, the entire team, for the thoughtful presentation collectively.
Well, Commissioner Washington, it was your comments last month that motivated us to do this. So thank you for speaking up so we could put it in a format that's better, easily digestible to the commission.
Well, my pleasure. I mean, it's wonderful, and it's not lost on me what everybody has been dealing with the move and holidays and everything else. So just well done, well done.
We'll let our team know. Thank you very much.
And the only thing that I would add is that we recognize that we have budget constraints all over the place. So we really did work with all the teams to make sure that despite the base budget enhancements that were essentially required, that any other kind of enhancements were aligned with what our collective priorities are, to be fiscally conservative about it, but to invest in the areas that we really need to be investing in. And I think that this budget reflects that. So Ms. Chang-Smith, well done to you and the entire team from all the departments. This feels like a series of appropriate asks. I really appreciate it.
Okay, so thank you very much, Chair Shapiro, and we are asking for a vote to approve the budgets that you just heard, as well as the commissioners and the planning department's budgets.
All right, so commissioners, are there any other questions, thoughts, reactions? If not, we would look for a motion.
I enthusiastically move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
I second it enthusiastically, and thanks everybody to the staff for a great job in making the budget comprehensible.
Yeah, this was really well done. Let this be the sort of the benchmark for how these things can be presented, because I think it helps all of us to digest this in a way that we can respond to. So we've got a motion by Commissioner Washington, a second by Commissioner Giraldo. Any discussion on the motion? No discussion. I will call the roll. Commissioner Washington.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Giraldo.
I vote aye.
Vice Chair Bailey.
Enthusiastically vote aye.
Commissioner Dillinger.
Vote aye.
I vote aye as well. The ayes have it 5-0. Thanks, Ms. Chang-Smith. Thanks to the entire team, all the departments. Job well done.
All right, thank you, Commissioner.
December 7th is when we're going to hear Parks and Rec and CIP, right?
Correct.
Right. Okay. And the additional Largo headquarters ISF, Internal Service Fund, as well.
That is correct. That is correct.
Okay, great. Okay, good.
Thank
All right,
you,
thanks, Steve. Thanks, everybody. Let's move on to the next item on our agenda. We have item 3A. This is a legislative item referring to PGMC 105-24. We have our General Counsel, Ms. Borden, who will be presenting. Good morning, and the floor is yours.
Good morning. Chair Shapiro, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you fine.
Okay, wonderful. Good morning, Chair and members of the Planning Board. Very nice to see everyone this morning. And thank you for giving me a few minutes to go over some new bills that have dropped. Yes, the General Assembly session for 2024 is upon us. It's not here yet, but the bills have begun to trickle in. And Jordan and I are working on preparing for the legislative session this year, or this coming year. And we're trying to do things as early as possible and be as organized as possible about our response to these various items. So the two bills that have come in recently, they will sound very familiar. So the first bill that came in was this bill, PGMC 105-24, Qualifying Municipal Corporation - Land Use. This bill purports to give the qualifying municipalities, basically municipalities that have more than 15,000 population, it purports to give them land use approval authority. So not quite zoning authority, but land use approval authority. So under this bill, these municipalities would have the authority of the planning board and the authority to approve site plans, ostensibly subdivision as well, and yet they would have to do so within the county's existing zoning ordinance. It would also give these municipalities the ability to approve their own master plan. Now, if you can see where this is going, that won't work because zoning is based on a foundation that is created in the master plan. The master plan sets the policy, they have recommendations, and the zoning ordinance is the implementation of those recommendations. If you have a municipality who is creating their own foundation, but then having to build the house in accordance with the county's zoning ordinance, right, the house on top of the foundation, that doesn't make any sense because you could have master plans that are in conflict with the zoning ordinance. And so you know, this is basically an example of, you know, a legislative proposal written by people who don't understand how zoning and land use are linked. And so, you know, the number of problems that this piece of legislation raises is pretty unlimited. It's you know, there are a lot of problems with it. So, and not to mention the fact that, you know, why do we need 5 new planning boards when we have a perfectly wonderful planning board in the commissioners, you know, in front of me. So we propose that the planning board allow us to oppose this bill. We have prepared a position statement. Actually, we are still preparing it, you know, because we only just received this bill less than a week ago. So we are still putting the final touches on it. But the local bill hearing that the delegation has is scheduled for Monday. So we are always on tight timeline with these bills. But we're hoping that with this information, the planning board will give us direction that we can, in fact, oppose this bill. We think that there's really no good thing that can come out of this bill. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about it.
Commissioners, any questions about that? I mean, it's, you know, we've seen versions of this before, and it'll you know, it's happening now, it'll happen again. I'm quite comfortable with authorizing our team to oppose this on Monday, but I want to open up to any thoughts, questions, reactions you all have.
I very much appreciate our council's compliments to the amazing planning board sitting before her. I think that was very strategically smart. But it would be helpful to maybe convey to them the unintended costs that would result from this kind of stuff, because we have an amazing staff that's huge, including general counsel and her folks, her legal team that helps out both sides of the county, of our county as well as Montgomery County, and that may get lost on people. Where I could see a push to want to make more and more localized kind of planning decisions, because the view might be that the local municipalities know kind of best in terms of what's for them. But then it's easy to forget that from like a regional perspective, that's actually one of the advantages we have, is that we can see kind of a bigger picture kind of idea. And that's actually one of the splendid things about our particular bi-county agency, that we have this regional planning aspect around DC, and that allows us to do a lot more. It allows us to have much more congruent planning decisions that actually match across municipalities and across counties throughout DC to serve the citizens, not just of our county or just one municipality, but both counties, as well as DC. The things that we do allow connectivity to all of the residents in DC to get out here and to enjoy things around here as well. And I could see that being potentially lost really easily if you're just looking at legislation and thinking about, hey, maybe government is too big and maybe we want to localize the decision making and send it down to a very fine level because those are the people that live in the communities without thinking about all the other kinds of benefits or returns to scale by having an agency that would be over an entire county or even a bi-county kind of area. So we can figure out a way to kind of like maybe merge that into some of your comments. That might give them sort of a philosophical view of kind of the trade-off when you're thinking about sort of home rule versus villain rule kind of stuff, or just like how you operate government agencies. Maybe that'll be a little bit useful.
Yeah, well said.
Thank you. Thank you.
Other questions,
Understood.
comments? None? Then we were going to take action on each of these separately, Ms. Borden. Is that right?
Yes.
Right, so I look
Yes,
for a
please
motion
do.
based on staff's recommendation for this item. Is there a motion?
Move to approve or support staff's recommendation, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
There's a motion by Commissioner Washington, second by Commissioner Giraldo to support staff's recommendation to oppose. Discussion on the motion. I'll call the roll. Commissioner Washington.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Giraldo.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Dorner.
Vote aye.
Vice Chair Bailey.
Thank you for your information, and I vote aye.
I vote aye as well. The ayes have it 5-0. Thank you. Are there others you want to present to us as well?
I do have one more, and again, this bill came in very recently, and just in the last couple of days. So we don't even have. Jordan may be able to send you a copy of the draft bill. This bill is PGMC 10624. It is interestingly titled Fairness in Zoning, and the bill purports to basically take all of the authority that the planning board has and give it all to the district council.
Oh my gosh.
And I do mean all. Subdivision, development review, basically everything. And it specifically says that the jurisdiction exercised by the planning board would be vested exclusively in the district council.
Wow.
I can't tell you what a bad idea this is. On the scale of bad ideas, this is probably one of the worst. The effect of this bill would basically eliminate the planning board's ability to make findings of any kind. It would render the planning board basically superfluous because everything would have to go to the district council for approval. And I do mean everything from whether a parking space can be 8 feet versus 9 feet wide to approving the FBI facility. Everything would have to go to the planning board. The planning board would literally have nothing to do. So yeah, I think that our recommendation bill, I can't imagine why anybody, including the district council, would ever want to do this. They don't have the expertise or the personnel or the time to do all of this. And I can't imagine why this is, why anybody thinks this is a good idea.
Thank you for that. And commissioners, we do not have all the information beyond the sort of we've seen. I've been in conversation about this with Deborah, with other folks about this a lot over the past few days. So we do need to move quickly just so we can make our voices heard. So bear with us as we get information to you all. But I would ask us to take a firm stand in opposition to this and authorize our team to be able to react as we get more information. Deborah, I think you froze actually.
So, let me turn off my camera. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you though. That's fine. So again, we'll get more information as it comes along, but you know, this is a fast-moving situation. I think it's screamingly obvious why we would oppose this one. And happy to entertain any questions you all have. And if there are no questions, then I'd look for a motion to oppose this bill as well, so we can authorize staff to speak on our behalf on this.
So a question, to what authority do they actually have the ability to do that? So we're created under state statute, which would precede any powers that the district council would have. So even if they would want to take everything away from this, would they be able to? Or is this more of an instance where they would sort of nullify any of our ability to do stuff just by taking all of our local authorities out of the way, and we basically be left with nothing else to do? So I'm just kind of interested in, from like a legal perspective, like, do they even have the ability to do this?
Yeah,
Well,
it's a state bill.
This would be a
It's a
state law.
state bill. This is a bi-county state bill
This is the
that
local
would go and be, this is a bi-county bill that would go to the full General Assembly for approval.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I would definitely support your views on opposing it, and then also just point out potentially the votes that they would need to get and the difficulties of changing the code to do this. And it might be useful for us to team up, if we can, with local supporters to express as well their support for us or their opposition to this bill.
Yeah, we'll be certainly doing a lot of organizing around this. I appreciate that.
Hey, Ms. Borden, what's the impetus? Who's the impetus behind this bill? Do you know?
Jordan can correct me if I'm wrong. I think this bill is sponsored by Delegate Tiffany Alston.
Correct.
And we have a meeting set up with her on Monday, and we're going to ask her that very question.
Thanks. That's a good question to start with, yes.
Yeah.
We're certainly trying to figure out the politics behind it all as we go along. You know, I don't want us to worry too much about these things, right? Because these things pop up a fair bit. This one is so beyond the pale. I just can't imagine it getting a whole lot of traction. But we're going to do our due diligence. We're going to stay very vigilant around this. I know that, and make sure that the team keeps all of us in the loop as we progress. Okay. Other questions? If not, I'd look for a motion to adopt staff's recommendation to oppose the bill. I don't remember the bill number on this one. What is it again, Jordan?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept staff's recommendation to oppose 10624, I believe it was.
Yes.
Second.
It's 10, yes.
Got a motion by Commissioner Washington, second by Commissioner Giraldo. We got the right bill number on this, correct?
BGC.
Yes.
Okay. Any other discussion?
BGMC 10624.
Excellent. No other discussion. I'll call the roll. Commissioner Washington.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Giraldo.
I vote aye.
Vice Chair Bailey.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Dorner.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. The ayes have it 5-0. Thank you. Do you have another one for us, or is just those two? Just these two charming
That's all
bills?
I have, but I will be back.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Borden.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right.
Thank you.
Moving on our agenda, we are now on to item 3D. This is a Parks and Rec item, Walker Mill Regional Park. This is a grant of permanent easement. Oh, yes, we are doing this. For stormwater, Mr. Sun.
Good morning, Chairman Shapiro, fellow planning board members. For the record, my name is Paul Sun, Land Acquisition Specialist, Department of Parks and Recreation. Item 3D is a request for a stormwater management easement at Walker Mill Regional Park. Next slide, please. Just as for those unfamiliar, Walker Mill Regional Park is a 500-acre regional park located inside the Beltway, bifurcated by Walker Mill Road in Capitol Heights. Next slide. Just as a quick reminder, Kathmandu Village preliminary plan subdivision was approved by the planning board in May of 2021, located at the south side of Wacomel Regional Park. Next slide. Next slide. On October 19th, we presented a land exchange agreement along with the granting of easements within the subject area. Next slide. As part of their permit review for Kathmandu, the applicant is requesting that MNC PPC grant a 3,121 square foot easement to Prince George's County. The easement will prohibit trees and shrubs on commission property within 15 feet of the proposed stormwater management facility that is being proposed. DPI needs the easement from the commission to bring the non-woody buffer area into compliance with the county standards. Staff recommends approval for granting the proposed stormwater management easement. Should the planning board vote to approve, we have requested addition of the resolution to the consent agenda item later this morning. Thank you. This concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Sun. Commissioners, fairly straightforward item. Certainly want to give some space for any questions that you may have for the team. No questions, then I would look for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry.
You all right?
Mr. Chair, I would move that. Go ahead. You got it.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I thought somebody else was talking. I'm sorry. I move that we adopt staff's recommendation and approve the stormwater management easement for Wacomel Regional Park. Sorry about that.
Second.
We got a motion by Commissioner Washington, second by Commissioner Giraldo. Discussion on the motion. Seeing no discussion, I will call the roll. Commissioner Washington.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Giraldo.
I vote aye.
Vice Chair Bailey.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Dorner.
Vote aye.
I vote aye as well. The ayes have it 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Sun. We now have a consent agenda before us, and the companion item of this 4E is part of the consent agenda. Commissioners or public, anyone who wishes to oppose staff's recommendations on these consent agenda items? If not, I would look for a motion.
Move approval of items on the consent agenda.
Second.
A motion by Vice Chair Bailey, a second by Commissioner Giraldo. Discussion, no discussion, I'll call the roll. Vice Chair Bailey.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Giraldo.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Washington.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Dorner.
Vote aye.
I vote aye as well. The ayes have it 5-0. Thank you all. We'll now move on to our regular agenda items. First is item 5. This is preliminary plan of subdivision PPS 2022-043 Harmony Garden. This is an evidentiary hearing. I don't think we have anyone signed up to speak, so we'll only swear people in as needed. Mr. Foreman will be representing the applicant. We have Mr. Heath who will give the staff presentation. Mr. Heath, we'll start with you.
All right, thank you. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. For the record, Antoine Heath with the subdivision section. Item 5 is a preliminary plan of subdivision for PPS-2022-043 Harmony Garden, which proposes 67 lots and 10 parcels for the development of 67 single-family attached dwellings. This application also includes a Type 1 tree conservation plan and a variance from Section 25-122B1G. All information regarding this preliminary plan of subdivision has been stated in the staff report, and staff is recommending approval with conditions. This application is also supported by and subject to Certificate of Adequacy ADQ-2022-099, which was approved with conditions on November 29, 2023. And the applicant proposed a revision to condition 1B prior to the Tuesday 12 p.m. deadline. And these revisions can be found in the additional backup as applicant's Exhibit 1, and staff is in full agreement with that revision. And this concludes staff's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Heath. Commissioners, any questions for staff? Seeing no questions, Mr. Foreman, I will turn to you, see if you have anything to add on this item.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. For the record, Nate Foreman with O'Malley Miles, Nyland and Gilmore, offices in Greenbelt. We are here in agreement with staff. We would like the board to adopt the recommendation. My team is here to testify if there's any questions. And the last thing I'd like to say is thank you, Mr. Heath and other members of Park and Planning staff for their help in getting us to this point. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Good work, all. Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Foreman? If not, there's nobody who signed up to speak on this item. So I will close the hearing and we have deliberation. And if there's no deliberation, I'll look for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt the findings of staff and approve preliminary plan PPS-2022-043, TCP1-016-2023, and variance to section 25-122B1G, along with the conditions as outlined in staff's report and is further modified by applicant exhibit number 1.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Washington, a second by Vice Chair Bailey. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Washington.
Vote aye.
Vice Chair Bailey.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Dorner.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Giraldo. Did we lose Commissioner Giraldo? I don't see him anymore. Jessica, if you could help figure that out, but we have enough votes. So the votes are 4-0. I'm not sure, Mr. Warner, if I would call that an abstention or if the vote is just 4-0.
Chair Shapiro, I'm sorry, Commissioner Giraldo stepped away from his desk during his vote, so I guess we could excuse it temporarily.
Okay.
Just no vote. It's just 4-0.
Okay, so the vote is 4-0. Thank you, Mr. Foreman, and thank you, Mr. Heath. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much. Have a great rest of your morning.
Thank you. We'll now move on to item 6, on our agenda. Item 6 on our agenda, this is a request for a continuance. It's a zoning map amendment ZMA 2022-005 Hyde Landing. Mr. Tedesco is representing the applicant making the request. This also is an evidentiary hearing. Mr. Warner, that's not right, is it? It doesn't matter.
Right, it's not an evidentiary hearing. It's just a request for a continuance. You haven't opened the hearing.
Right. So just a request for a continuance. We'll start with Ms. Lockhart. Take it away.
Right, doing a sound check. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes.
Thanks.
Okay, great, thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the Planning Board. For the record, I am Dominique Lockhart with the zoning section. Item number 6 on the agenda is zoning map amendment ZMA-2022-005, titled Hyde Landing, which requests to rezone the property from the Legacy Comprehensive Design Zone to the Mixed-Use Plan Development Zone. The applicant for this case has requested a continuance to the January 11th Planning Board hearing date to allow the applicant and staff additional time to discuss the proposed development and work through comments provided to the applicant. No waiver is required for this application type, and the public hearing notice signs will be updated to reflect the new hearing date. Staff recommends approval of this request for continuance. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lockhart. Questions, commissioners? Mr. Tedesco, turn to you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Board. For the record, Matthew Tedesco, the law firm of McNamee Hosey and Greenbelt, on behalf of the owner and applicant. I think Ms. Lockhart summed up our request quite nicely. Our letter is in the backup. We would submit on that and respectfully request the board's approval of the requested continuance. We are actively working with your staff as well as a fairly large consortium of the community in the area. So we respectfully request the continuance and look forward to hopefully bringing this case back to you for your recommendations in January.
Thank you, Mr. Tedesco. Commissioners, you've heard the request and you've heard staff's recommendation. What is your pleasure?
Move to approve the continuance, Mr. Chairman, for ZMA-2022-005 to January 11, 2024.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Washington, a second by Vice Chair Bailey. Discussion. Calling the roll. Commissioner Washington.
I vote aye.
Vice Chair Bailey.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Dorner.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Geraldo.
I vote aye as to the continuance.
I vote aye as well. The ayes have it 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Tedesco, and thank you, Ms. Lockhart. Final item on our agenda, the regular agenda. This is item 7, detailed site plan DSP 04054-07 Belafonte, Clinton Self-Storage. This also is a request. Actually, let me take that back. I think my notes are off. Hold on one sec. Yeah, okay. All right. So we have Mr. Tedesco representing the applicant. We have Hyo-Jung Garland, who's going to give a staff presentation. And help me out, David, because my notes are actually confused on this one. This is not a request for continuance. Huh?
Right. This matter was continued from the 9th until this date.
Okay. All right. So this is an evidentiary hearing. We do not have anyone signed up. We did have somebody signed up, but they canceled. So we'll only swear people in if we have anyone who needs to be sworn in, and we'll start with the staff presentation.
Great. So this is Hyo-Jung Garland. Should I start?
Yes, you can start. Introduce yourself
right.
for the record. The floor is yours.
Absolutely. Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the board. For the record, I am Hyo-Jung Garland with Urban Design Section. Item number 7 is detailed site plan, DSP 04054.
Garland, let me interrupt one sec. You don't need to be on camera, but we cannot see you. We can only hear you. You don't need to be. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, because I wanted to actually be on the camera, but somehow it's not showing up. I thought it was blocked out, but if it's not the case, we'll just turn it off.
Yeah.
All right.
And you're fine. So we can still hear you. So just keep going.
Okay. So I will just continue that. Okay. So this item number 7 is detailed site plan DSP 04054-07 Belafonte, which requests an amendment to DSP 04054. to add approximately 19,000 square feet of additional consolidated storage units to lot 159. The applicant has also requested a variance of 0.06 to the FAR requirement of the I-4 zone of the prior zoning ordinance. The urban design section recommended that the planning board adopted the finding of this report and then approve the detailed site plan, including the variance to section 27-472D1 and type 2 tree conservation plan TCP2-114-04-05, subject to the recommended condition of approval within the technical staff report. The applicant has reviewed these conditions and would like to request one clarification for the staff analysis language. If you allow me, I would like to bring the applicant to the table.
Thank you. Ms. Garland, let us just take this through the process. Once you've completed your staff presentation, I'll turn to the applicant and we can have the applicant take this up when they speak, okay?
Sounds great, thank you.
Okay, anything else from the staff?
That's it.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Garland. Thank you very much. We'll now turn to the applicant, Mr. Tedesco, and you can certainly pick up what Ms. Garland was talking about if you could introduce yourself for the record.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you again, Mr. Chairman, members of the planning board. For the record, Matthew Tedesco, the law firm McNamee Hosey and Greenbelt, on behalf of the applicant Clinton Self Storage LLC, trading as source-based self-storage. Just want to, before I pick up where Ms. Garland left off with respect to just one clarifying item in the findings. I did want to just take one quick moment to remind the board that, as Mr. Warner indicated, this case was continued from November 9th to today. Primarily the basis for that was both Ms. Garland taking over this case for Mr. Shelley, as well as myself taking over this case for my late partner, Mr. Lynch. So I wanted to once just again thank you all for that accommodation. I want to thank Ms. Garland for her professional ability to step in and get this case back before you in a very quick turnaround, notwithstanding those items that came that landed on both of our laps. And so Ms. Garland has done a fantastic job getting this case before you, and I want to publicly thank her for that and presenting it here to you all this morning. This case is very straightforward. The existing consolidated storage facility is constructed. We are proposing 2 additional buildings, being F and G, which are basically in the middle of the hole in the donut, so to speak, of the existing buildings that are on the subject property. All the requisite findings as it relates to this application have been well articulated in your staff report, as well as the conditions. We are in agreement with all conditions. That leads me to Ms. Garland's teeing me up for just one quick minor modification that can be made in your resolution for this item, and it relates to finding number 10, which is on page 26 of your staff report, as it relates to conditions 12 and 13 of the preliminary plan of subdivision that was approved. So if I can direct your attention to page 26 of finding 10, in response to conditions 12 and 13, which have to do with the acoustical analysis conditions of the preliminary plan. Those conditions are relative to buildings and construction, excepting those buildings that are used for storage purposes. So you can see in conditions 12 and 13, it says unless structures or portions thereof are designed only for storage purposes, then the acoustical analysis is not needed. In staff's finding on page 26, it says at the time of building permits, an acoustical analysis must be provided for the 2 structures. That's we've since talked with staff. That's technically not correct, and staff has acknowledged that needed tweak there, given the condition exempts buildings that are used solely for storage, which these 2 buildings will be used solely for storage as complementary to the existing storage facility on the property. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate your indulgence to let me clarify that. We have no other further requested modifications to any conditions. And again, thank Ms. Garland. Look forward to working with her on many other projects in the future, and appreciate the staff's time and consideration of this application. Would respectfully request the approval with just that minor clarification in that one particular finding. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Tedesco, and thank you for the kind words for Ms. Garland, who we can now see on camera. Good to see you.
Thank you.
So do we have anyone signed up to speak on this? I have one person who signed up. I assume this is somebody who's part of the applicant's team.
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct, Mr. Chairman. We had one representative of the applicant who signed up, but they do not need to be heard. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. So, commissioners, any questions for either staff or the applicant on this item?
I would just ask Ms. Garland to state for the record whether or not she concurs with the finding amendment.
Thank you so much. Yes, staff concur with the clarification language, and staff is happy to address that during the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the question. Good question. So we have no one signed up from the public to speak on this. I will close the public hearing portion. We are under deliberation. If there's no deliberation, I'll look for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, David Warner.
Yes,
Can
sir.
I just interrupt before you discuss the motion? I just was a little unclear on what Mr. Tedesco and Ms. Garland were saying. They both refer to this as a clarification. It's my understanding you're asking that staff remove the recommendation that at the time of building permits an acoustical analysis must be provided. We're removing that, right?
Yeah, I'm asking for that finding to be revised to indicate that an acoustical analysis is not required since these buildings are for storage purposes only, and the conditions 12 and 13 of the preliminary plan would otherwise exempt that requirement to provide such an analysis.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just wasn't quite clear on that. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
I apologize.
Staff fully concur. Yeah, that was already the language of the condition, so it's being consistent with the prior approval of the condition. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Mr. Warner, good enough? Yep. Okay, with that, I'll look for a motion, commissioners.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt the findings of staff in addition to the amendment to finding number 10 as discussed and read into the record by both the applicant as well as staff. And with that, approve DSP-04054-07, variance to section 27-472D1 and TCP2-114-04-05, along with the conditions as outlined in staff's report.
Second.
We've got a motion by Commissioner Washington, a second by Vice Chair Bailey. Discussion on the motion. Seeing no discussion, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Washington.
Vote aye.
Vice Chair Bailey.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Giraldo.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Dorner.
Vote aye.
I vote aye as well. The ayes have it 5-0. Thank you, Ms. Garland. And thank you, Mr. Tedesco.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. All right, next, commissioners, is a final item we're going to take up. We're going to go into executive session. Let me just read the closing statement. Pursuant to the general provisions article of the Annotated Code of Maryland, Article 3-305, subsection B1I, a closed session is proposed to discuss a personnel matter related to the planning director hiring process. I would look for a motion to go into executive session.
Move approval to go into executive session.
Second.
We've got a motion by Commissioner Giraldo, a second, I believe, by Vice Chair Bailey. Discussion on the motion. Call the roll. Commissioner Giraldo.
I vote aye.
Vice Chair Bailey.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Washington.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Dorner.
Vote aye.
I vote aye as well. The ayes have it 5-0. So we'll go into executive session for the public. It'll probably take about 10-15 minutes. We will then come back into open session to close the meeting. And folks, I will see those of you for whom it is relevant. I will see you in closed session in just a minute or so.
And we do have a link for closed session.
We have a link for closed session. If there's any issues, you can call or text Jessica. She'll help you out.
Commissioner
Okay, thank you.
Bailey, I'll send it to you if you haven't received it.
As we wrap up our meeting, we have a quorum here. So we're back in open session. Just want to announce that the board received a briefing. Closed session direction was given to staff. This is related to personnel matter. And
Chair Shapiro, I just wanted to make sure that Brian Cron is back on and got us up and going. So if he can just,
okay.
a couple of moments, please.
Yes, I'm on. Thank
Brian,
you.
you back on? I think I heard him, Jessica.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you.
So we are back on. So I don't believe there's any further business before us. Mr. Hunt, any further business before us today?
Mr. Chairman, there are no additional business items before the board today.
I have a question for Mr. Hunt, Mr. Chairman. Is that 202? I said I have a question for Mr. Hunt.
Yes.
Is that 202 in your background where the cars are?
Oh no, that's the Capitol Beltway, and I've got FedEx Field back there too. I got a great view.
Sorry. A whole new world for us.
Shawnice, I'm sitting in our new boardroom, not the auditorium, just the boardroom.
I haven't been there inside, but I've driven around the area. It's wonderful. It's absolutely.
You gotta
wonderful.
come in. Take a tour. Right.
That's right, because I just got my card, the employee ID card.
Excellent. I think Mr. Hunt is a little bit sad because when he was in the county administration building, his office had an infestation of ladybugs, and he really misses them apparently.
Well, you need some ladybugs?
I got some. That's one of the little insects that we breed at our house sometimes. So I can bring a whole container of them pretty soon for you.
That's okay.
Will, I need some for my garden. So I'll take some ladybugs from you.
We can do that. I haven't gotten a shipment recently because it's been a little bit cold, but we can certainly do that. And we can give a little bit extras that you don't want to Mr. Hunt. That way he doesn't find.
We're going to have a ladybug party right in your office. It'll be fun.
Right.
So I guess we had a little bit more business before us, but that wraps that up. I want to thank everybody for your time today. And without objection, we are adjourned, and I will talk to you all soon.
Have a great rest of the day, all. Bye.
Yep. Bye.